I'm going to be doing a very important count that has to do with the Tetragrammaton. Okay, alright, and I'm going to be using the King James to help me out a little bit. And then I'm going to get into the Hebrew. Obviously, Tetragrammaton in my study appeared, okay, in verse 1, 13, 20, and 22. Now, what am I doing? Well, I'm trying to prove the Trinity, that the Trinity is recorded, okay, in Genesis chapter 18. Because of the appearances of three persons to Abraham. And some of these verses say that Jehovah or Yahweh spoke to Abraham. Okay, three. It didn't say two. It doesn't say two. It doesn't say one. It doesn't say four. It says three. Okay. Now, I already said that the word Trinity is not in the Bible, so what? Trimester is not in the Bible, and this pregnancy is all over the Bible. Trimester is the three stages of pregnancy that a woman goes through, and us guys go through also, okay, because we have to get beat up by our wives, during, some of these trimesters, some of these periods, you understand what I'm saying? So the first trimester is the first 3 months, the second trimester is the second stage, or the 3-month cycle, whatever you want to call it, and the third trimester is the last 3 months, 7 through 9, you understand? Trimester is not in the Bible, but yet this pregnancy is splattered all over the pages of the Bible. Okay, you understand what I mean? So that's how to answer the witnesses or anybody else. Islam, I don't care who doesn't believe in, the Trinity. The word doesn't have to be there, okay? Just the teaching has to be there. The Trinity has to be there. The verses have to be there. And the Trinity doctrine is contained in hundreds of verses of the Bible, in the Bible. For the people, by the people, you understand what I'm saying? So over here, we see right off the bat that the King James, okay, has the capital letters for Lord, which is very helpful. And then I'm going to confirm, I'm going to confirm it by the Hebrew. But, it's kind of fun just to go through the King James. I'm not a King James only dude. Okay, that's another cult and sect that we have to deal with in Christianity. And, but we deal with them, and I have to always remind people that, the word Jesus is found more in one of the NIVs versus one of the King James by a count of 1,241 to a measly 971 times, even though the Greek, Yesu in his three forms, Jesus, Yesu, Yesu, and Yesun, two cases, the genitive and the dative, share one construction, Yesu. And the articles to and to will be very helpful in those points, in that situation, those situations. Okay, I'm getting my English here in the Philippines, so that's just the deal. So right off the bat, I guess that's punctiliar, right? The NIV has Jesus more recorded. Now the NIV is right next to the King James right over here. Now let me see if the NIV has capital letters. It would be helpful, but I don't think they do. I don't really think they do, though. They have the capital letters. So that's just the deal. It says the Lord, but it's not capitalized. So the King James will be helpful in that degree. Let's go through it. Verse 1, you have the capital letters for Lord. So, and I confirmed that, the Hebrew is there. Yahweh is there. So that's easy to confirm because I studied it. And I just skimmed through this over here. Okay. So that's one time the Tetragrammaton is seemingly there. Okay, and then you have another occurrence here. Another occurrence, but it doesn't really tell you the verse. Oh, the verse is kind of on it's not on the margin. So verse 3 has the Tetragrammaton. I didn't see it in verse 2. Let me check it out again, verse 2. Just in case. Now, verse 2 is in the margin. Alright, so that's just the deal. And this is, this is just the proof. Now, I did make a Lord count, okay, according to the NIV, and it appears 15 times. So the Tetragrammaton is not gonna appear that many more times than that, or less than that. Okay, it's gonna be around that vicinity of 15 times. Okay, the Tetragrammaton seems to be in verse 3, 1 and 3. So let's just record that for the record. Okay, because I'm recording this, so that's obviously 1, 3, 1 and 3 of verse 4. Let me see if the Tetragrammaton appears. The Tetragrammaton is not going to appear in all 33 verses, okay? That's 33 verses. And like I said, Lord is only recorded 15 times in this chapter. So the math, you do the math. So far, 1 and 3. Let's go to verse 5. We're getting there, guys. You understand? I'm doing the leg work for you. And in the Hebrew, it's going to have to be side by side. Okay, because the numbers appear in my Greek and Hebrew interlinear, meaning the verses, when it's side-by-side view. So I just hope my babies don't wake up. I'm doing this while laying down, and I have babies all over the place. Okay, verse 6, and I think 1 is waking up now. Okay, so 1 and 3. Okay, let's see here. Got Sarah over there. Alright, so that's just it. I'm using a magnifying glass, of all things, to skim right through this. In verse 7, it doesn't appear to have the Tetragrammaton either. So I think it's going to be sort of top heavy. Okay, that's just the deal. Verse 8, I'm almost 1/3 of the way there. And capital letters for Lord, okay, are glaring. You can't miss it, even me. Okay, now this is verse 9. So far I saw 2 times where it was recorded, the word Lord in capital letters, you understand? Okay, now I'm on verse 10 already. I'm almost 33% of the way there. Okay, so let's just say I have to be careful, because you don't want to skip one and not to do it all over again. Like I said, the Trinity is either, it's three scenarios. The Trinity is here. That's for scenario number 1. Number 2 is an example of the Trinity. It's not the Trinity visiting Abraham. It's the example of the Trinity. I lean toward the first one. And 11. That means 33% is done already. It's not an example of the Trinity at all. No, of course I don't hold to that view. I believe that 99.9% out of the 100% percentage, it is the Trinity. So I'm already 33% of the way there. This is verse 12. Okay, Sarah. All right. Okay. So 13. So you see, in the ones that I studied, I told you about that already. 1, 13, 20, and 22. You can expect it to be there. So 1, 3, and so far 1, 3, and 13. So 3 times the Tetragrammaton appears, at least seemingly so. Okay, all I have to do is just check out verse 2, basically, and some other verses that doesn't have to do with 1, 13, 20, 22, because I checked those already. So even though I forget what I'm saying now, I'll go back to the recording. I think I mentioned 4 times. Okay. 1, 3, and I forgot the other one. Okay. I'll go back to the recording. There's like 4 times I think it was mentioned. So I'll just stay with 4, that number 4. Alright, so that's just it. This is verse 14 right here. And you see, verse 14 has Lord in it also. So that's kind of easy, 13 and 14. It's almost like remembering how many times did the Holy Spirit speak in the Acts of the Apostles and the other verses of Scripture. Okay, so you have 14 there for the record. And I'm going to actually write this down on a nice, Bible study format for you guys. And this is 15. And this was not studied by me and the body of the Trinity in Genesis Bible study. So that's just it. So I'll forget about the count for now. I'll make an appendix and I'll figure out the count, because I'm bound to forget. It's 15 times probably that it's found, so I'm bound to forget one or two, especially at my age. But that's what we have recorders for. You understand? Okay, verse 17. So we're more than half of the way there, and the Tetragrammaton appears to be there in verse 17. Like I said, this will be all confirmed by the Hebrew. So all I have to do is just note these verses down from the King James, which is kind of a cool thing to do. And if I find 14 or 15 times that the Tetragrammaton appears in the Hebrew, well, that's my number, because it's not going to be further down the ballpark of that number. Okay? Not that you're using the English to confirm the Hebrew, but you want to pinpoint basically how many times Lord appears, in its imperial form, and we saw that in the Greek Septuagint. So just for the record, 17 appears to be, the Tetragrammaton piece appears to be in verse 17 also, one time there. And this is verse 18, so way past the Mendoza line, that halfway point, I should say, whatever. Very interesting. But 15 times is almost half of the verses in this biblical text of verse 33. 33 verses. Now I'm already up to 19. Okay, so that's almost okay. 2/3 of the way there. Okay, so there's the Lord right there. I'm thinking verse 19, right? Let's see. Where's the? Okay, wait a minute here. This is something. There's got tetragrammatons all over the place right here. Wait for a second. Okay, just wait. Okay, so verse 19 has a tetragrammaton, I think 3 times, because the capital letter version for Lord appears like 3 times. Okay, that's 1. Let me go backwards. 1, 2. Okay, so verse 19 is filled with the tetragrammaton. Okay, so imagine I had to go through Psalm 119. Got about 170 something verses. Okay, no, it's only appearing 2 times. You see, that's 19. And so Lord, that you're caught in here. And so it's not 3 times, it's 1, 2. That's my baby Anna Devane waking up. Okay, so verse 20, let me do this hurriedly, because I have to give her milk. Okay, 20 has a tetragrammaton, obviously, 1 time. I don't have to even count there, because that was one of my main focuses. 21 I skipped because I know it's not there. And verse 22 I skipped because I know it's only 1 time there, because that was the, like I said, one of the main focus of the the Bible study. Verse 22 has it once there. Let me see. Let me just look. Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure. Yeah. Okay. So also in verse 22, like I said, verse 23. So I'm 66% of the way there. Okay. I'm doing this with a magnifying glass, guys. It's very painstaking job that I'm doing for you guys. I'm doing all the work. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have to do nothing. You just sit down and collect. So that's what the ministry is all about. I want you to be very proficient in the Greek and in the Hebrew. Well, so we can annihilate, no pun intended, the witnesses. Reach them or defeat them. Just like Chuck Norris. You wanted the easy way or the hard way. Verse 25 doesn't appear to have the tetragrammaton, no pun intended, because the Lord appeared off there to to Abraham. That's in verse 1, you understand what I'm saying? That's from Horao, by the way. Alright, so that's just it. Okay, alright, so what's the deal? Hey. I'm like, I need help like Moses did, man. My arms are hurting. You know, always remember that that scripture. I don't know where it's located, but it's in the last verse of one chapter, one of the chapters, a couple of chapters in Isaiah. All the day long I have held forth my arms to a gainsaying and disobedient people. You understand? Tetragrammaton appears here, but I don't see. Okay, verse 26. Tetragrammaton always appeared also there. Verse 26. At least seemingly so. Like I'm saying, I'm using the King James. I'm trusting the King James to point me in the right direction, so I don't have to do too much work when I get into the Hebrew. Even though I'm going to look at it, you know, it's kind of like it's going to be the same thing because I'm going to have to go through all the verses anyway, so it's not really saving me any trouble. But when I see the Tetragrammaton in these verses that I'm gonna write down, well, I'm not going to be surprised and shocked. I'm going to expect it to be there if they were correct. But verse 27, according to the King James, sometimes they weren't correct in some things. Now the Tetragrammaton appears in verse 27. It looks like one time there. Yep. So we'll check that out. It's almost over. The research. Now remember that one Lord went to heaven and the Lord stayed to judge. It doesn't say two. It doesn't have to. You know, just have to say one when and one like that. Even though it was two. Remember, they're they're one anyway. It's not gonna say one Lord went up there and then two Lords stay down there. You know, saying that the three Lords. That's not the Trinity formula. We're not saying that there's three Lords. We're saying there's one Lord and three persons. One Lord yet three persons. That's my formula. Yet. I don't like one Lord in three and then one God in three. Even though I'm a Trinitarian, I don't like that distinction. It's misleading, and it confuses the people, small thinkers from the tower that can't think. You know, just like Prince. You know what I'm saying? He was a musical genius, but then he couldn't figure out the Trinity. So he's, you know, singing Purple Rain and Doves Cry and everything like that, and he's a Jehovah's Witness, and he's tripping all over the Trinity, and that's why he became a Jehovah's Witness. Come on, man. It's just like Joe Biden all over again. Come on, man. You know, you're a musical genius. Musical genius. Michael Jackson and who I boycotted, and Prince, who I boycotted, along with Madonna and Janet Jackson, because three of them were Jehovah's Witnesses. And let's go to verse 28 again. Verse 28. Anybody who's a known Jehovah's Witness, I just, you know, sadly, because some of the music is really good. A lot of it is very sensual for Christian anyway. I mean, you know, it doesn't make any sense to listen to that stuff. So I boycotted their music anyway, you know. What a representative of the tower, huh? Singing sensual music like that. Really sexual things, though. And then going into prayer. So the band of Prince, when I used to be a Prince fan, used to say it was very leery getting into prayer, and then after that singing a sexual song. You know what I'm saying? That's just the deal. Hi. That's my wife that just came in. I'm just doing research on something, hon. You need some help with something? No. Okay, that's the best words I heard today. Okay, because early in the morning, I'm doing this count. So I'm glad that she don't need any help. This noble husband that I am. Alright, so that's just the deal. Okay, so nothing in verse 28, just for the record. I'm getting into the last stages of this research here, you understand? And then I'll do an appendix and tie the loose ends together and give you a count of what I saw. I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper. Okay. That's just it. This is verse 30, so I'm almost finished. There's 33 verses in this chapter. This is verse 30, and the Tetragrammaton appears here in verse 30. Apparently so. At least the capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. And remember, when that was done by the King James, it was showing that the translating from the Tetragrammaton. This is verse 31. You understand? So that's in verse 31 has the capital Lord version. 31. This is painful, man. My arms hurt. I'm just complaining, guys. I mean, that's just the deal. Okay, so verse 32. Now, this is where the King James comes. I love the King James. You know, Alexander Scorby, Henry Van Dyke, Max McLean, to a lesser degree, because I loved his his acting when it had to do with the NIV more than anything. You know, we were used to that. And the Tetragrammaton is in verse 33. So at least apparently, so like I keep on saying. So at least once. Okay, so that's it. That's the count. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make an appendix. And the NIV has the Lord 15 times. Okay, but it's not helpful because you have another instance where Abraham called. Okay, and I could see here, compare. Let's see here. Called the Lord. Well, I don't know. I have to look at the Hebrew though. See, the Lord. Now that's the Tetragrammaton, but there's nothing special about what they wrote in this compared to the King James. You can't count. I mean, if it's capital L, you don't know if it's Adonai, or Yahweh. That's why I'm saying there's nothing special about the. It's nice to have it capitalized because one of those forms are there. Okay, but Adonai or Yahweh. I mean, Lord, to a lesser degree, it's not going to be capitalized, unless he was addressed like that. Okay, so I mean, let's just see verse. Let's just do a couple of these things, not the whole thing. Okay, Abraham looked up. Okay, Abraham looked up and saw. Okay, and saw three men. Andres in the Greek Septuagint. I think Ish in the Hebrew, plural, I believe. When he saw them, Now, I didn't say this though. Talking about counts, quite interesting that the NIV has, personal pronouns for God if he's indeed here in appearing to Abraham in Trinity form. 42 times, at least 42 times I saw personal pronouns for God. Okay, he, they, them, I, you. I mean, all that stuff. Will you spare it if it's like that? All right, so let me see. If it's 50 or 40. I mean, the game that Abraham was playing with God. And I'll speak to you one more time. Well, will you spare it for 10? And then, okay, since you said one more time, God split. He was gonna play that charade. And then Abraham, you know how we are. Abraham, he was gonna get it down to 1, and then, will you spare it for 1? So before he gets to that point, God split. He's not a stupid God. He said, if I have found a favor in your eyes, okay, my Lord. See, that's not nothing special about that. At least in the English, there's a small L over there. But according to the King James, let me see something over here. I have to go way back over here, and I could look at the Hebrew real quickly, because verse 3. And said, my Lord, if Now I have. Now they say the tetragrammaton is there. My Lord, he's different. The English translation way different than that. Than just now. That's it's a small L there, like Adon. Like if they were translating Adon, and then the King James has the all caps there. Now if you go to the interlinear here, now remember there are different versions of the Masoretic text in biblical form, no pun intended. Okay, so let's get Genesis here. Remember that show Back to Genesis, Back to Genesis. I like that. Now, chapter 18 is right here. Look, I hate these tabs. I really do. I really do. I despise these tabs. They're so small. Okay, I'm just saying. I mean, I and said, okay, Wayomer, and said, this is just Adon here. Okay, it's not the Tetragrammaton. So why did the King James have, capital L, capital O, capital D? I think they're just saying by the context, who's speaking to, who appeared to Abraham, because it was, Yahweh. Well, then let's translate, Adon into all caps, because it's Yahweh anyway. But that's misleading. Okay. So I mean, the NIV was correct in saying, small L. O-R-D, they're not being unfactual. It says my Lord here in the Greek interlinear, and in Hebrew interlinear rather. What is let me see. Oops, so sorry guys. Oops, I'm sorry again. I'm gonna do it right, Ange. My Lord. Now, what are the letters? Well, you got Hatefs. You have right under. I'm right under the D in Lod. You got the Aleph here, which is a silent letter, pure silent letter. There are two silent letters in Hebrew, but one is peculiar. The ayin is not always silent. Okay, but I mean, that's why it's called peculiar in some, sheets. But this is a purely silent letter. Aleph is one of the designations for Greek manuscripts. Sinaiticus or Sinaiticus or Sinaiticus has this designating it. Okay, 4th century text along with Vaticanus, and this is the symbol or the designation or the name, the appellation for that manuscript. You understand what I'm saying? This and it's the only one in existence that I know of that a Hebrew letter that designates a Greek manuscript. Now this is again this is Aleph, and the Paleo Hebrew version of it. This is Babylonian script. It's not really Hebrew. We call it Hebrew, but it's really not. And not. The Paleo Hebrew is really Hebrew. This is not what Moses wrote. He lived before the Babylonian captivity of the Hebrew congregation, if you will. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, you have Hatef Pathach underneath it as an A class, like in the word. Looks like a minus sign. That's an A class, like in the word hat. Don't make Hebrew so hard. What's difficult for us non-Jewish people, the Goyim, not according to God, but according to them. Even though, the United States are great supporters of Israel. Let's not forget that. You understand what I'm saying? That's just it. Now, so it's you have A here, and then you have the Dalet, which is a D. It looks like the opposite side 7. I'm right under the O and the R in Lord. So that's the D, like in David's name. And that could be hard or that could be soft. Then you have the Nun, which it's like an N sounding letter. I'm right under the L in Lod. But you have some symbols here. You have, I forgot to tell you this. There's a little dot up to the upper left-hand corner of the Dalet. And you see also when Jesus said Haderek, Ani Haderek, I am the way. That's in Hebrew Haderek, the way. hey hadas in Greek. Actually, it's a feminine word, hadas, even though it's a second declension. First declensions are words that end in alpha or eta, and nowadays called eta in Greek. Second declensions are words that end in omicron, like theos, ultraphos, whatever the case may be, minus the case ending, you understand what I'm saying? And then third declension are words that end in stops and stuff like that, or whatever. Dentals like T and tau and delta and all this other good stuff, So you have the noon there. It looks like a little old-fashioned telephone thingy, and then you have the T-looking thingy. That's an A class, like in the word father. So that's the noon. And I forgot to, I didn't forget to tell you, but I was talking right after that. So soon after that. So a dot above the left hand corner of a letter is very important in Hebrew. Sometimes it's a seen dot, showcasing that it's an S and not a SH sound letter, like in the letter sheen or shin or seen or sin. Not sin like the Adamic nature, but I'm talking about just a name for a letter. And it's not a sin to call seen sin, because Leonard Nimoy was a Hebrew. Mr. Spock from Star Trek, he used to pronounce that letter shin or sin, not sheen or seen. So the both are correct. Right. Anyway, and so you have the noon, the N letter, that looks like an old-fashioned telephone handle or whatever, and the T-looking thingy underneath it, that vowel stroke, is an A, like in the word father. So you got na, and then the yod is being used as a vowel. Okay, the wow can do that also, like in shalosh. We see that recorded around verse 2, I think, something like that in this chapter. So this is Adon. You understand? This is Adonah. Okay, Adonah. Now let's poke the bear. And you see, well, actually, in the text, it's a little bit different than the lexical form. Lexical form, okay, has, wait for a second, has the aleph and actually comments underneath it. So you have the A class, like in the word father, and not the pathach. Then you have the dalet. Okay, fine. The textual form has that, but it doesn't have the whole O class. It has the wow or the vav, having an O class above it, and then a final noon, and not just a regular noon, but a noon sofit, which sofit means final. Like if Greek was Hebrew, it would be called sigma sofit. Okay, because that's the last letter. That can only be the last letter of a Greek word. That could only be the last S in a Greek word. Okay, so English is hideous here in the Philippines. Hideous, but it's not Yahweh. So you can knock out. I mean, verse 3 is Tetragrammaton being found there. I'm doing it right now. I don't have to do it when I do the count. It's not here. Okay? It's not. The Tetragrammaton is not here. Let's see. Okay, it's not. And this is just something. To go to the Hebrew, they have computers that do these things. Okay? They probably tag the words first. They tag them, and then the computer just figures out the count. You think that somebody went, well, I mean, they actually did it. They tagged it. In order to tag it, you got to go through it. So you can skim right through it and tag. You can skim right through it early in the morning. You can skim right through it and tag it, I guess, And then mistakes are made like that though when you go fast like that. That's why there's two different counts of the Tetragrammaton and two different lexicons, but only a count of one, so it's not a great disparity. You have Mounce has it at 6,829 times in the Old Testament, and Vines has it at 6,828 times. So it's not a big difference. It's not a big of a deal. So the Tetragrammaton is not in verse 3. So I could just discount that before I even do my research. I don't have to just skip it. Right. For now, guys, this wasn't really a teaching on the Trinity, though I spoke about some things here and there, off the cuff. But what I would like to say, okay, and then I could just go to verse 1 that has a Tetragrammaton over here while I speak. Okay, appeared is actually, okay, I just forget the word and. Appeared is the Hebrew word. Now let me raise up. Okay, it's actually ra'ah. Oh, ra'ah. Oh. Why do I say oh? Well, ra'ah, it means also saw. Ra'ah. Ra'ah is found recorded, if I'm not mistaken, in Exodus chapter 24, verses 9 and 10. The whole story is there, verses 9 and 10. I'm not saying that Ra'ah appears in both verses. In verse 10, Ra'ah appears for 74 people seeing God. Okay? And they saw the God. Now, this is not to be confused with Ara, which is a very important Hebrew word for Trinitarians, because Ara proves that Jesus was still alive, though the soul was poured out. That's what it means, to pour, to empty. Jehovah's Witnesses like to use verse 12 of Isaiah chapter 53 to try to prove that Messiah, that he wasn't in existence after he died. Okay, but the same Hebrew word ara, okay, this is ra'ah though. Ara actually appears in several places according to Brown, Driver, and Briggs. But there's one interesting one, okay, because it has to do with being poured out, from one thing to something else. And Rebecca, in verse 20 of chapter 24 of Genesis of this book, actually poured out her pitcher into the trough of water for the camels to drink, in the famous story of, in Genesis chapter 24, just 6 chapters down the road. Now, the water wasn't destroyed just because it was ara, was poured out. Okay? So, you can tell the witnesses that even though Jesus, ara, poured out his soul unto death, it doesn't mean that the soul was destroyed, because the water wasn't destroyed in Genesis chapter 24, verse 20. So, I made that study myself. I did not see that in any book or magazine or whatever the case may be. I just took my Brown, Driver, and Briggs and combed through where I could get an example of something surviving, okay, after being emptied or poured out. Okay, if that water survived and was given to the camels after the pouring, if you will, well, why couldn't Jesus' soul be poured out yet survive? It's just as simple as that. Okay? Well, that's just all there is to it. Now, praise God for that. He gets the glory, not me. And this is the one, and definitely this is the word because of the Hebrew, but if you look at the number above it, 7,200, that's the word. There's certain numbers I remember that has to do with Strong's. 430 is it's tagging Elohim's title. 259 is Achad, which means 1 or 11, a whole bunch of meanings there. 6440 is tagging Panim, faces, or persons, or person, whatever the case may be. And so I remember certain, not many of them, but certain, numbers, just like 2,316 for Theos, and 3807, I believe, for Horao, and some other words. So it's important to try to, just like you remember some things. Page 451 is the only page number I remember of Vines, but it has to do with other, because 7 Greek words appears for other on that page, It might be another page involved, but that's the main page. And the witnesses like to say that in Colossians chapter, let me just, that's okay. In Colossians chapter 1, verses 16 and 17, they like to use the word other, and there's no Greek word for other there in the Greek. Okay, so I remember that page number because you have seven Greek words that mean other that don't appear in that text of 16 and 17 of chapter 1 of Colossians. Now, Mouse, that was mine, but Mouse has it at 5 different Greek words. 5 is enough to let you know that they're not found and recorded in the text. There's no other, he made all other things and stuff like that. And then they like so much about it, they forgot to put it in verse 3 of chapter 1 of John's Gospel. It says, tapanta, all things. They don't say all other things there. See, when you lie, you're just going to get caught. So this is ra'ah, and this is very important. Spelled out resh. It's an opposite side looking R, and right below the last zero and 7,200. You have the comments underneath. It's a T looking thingy. That's an A class, like in the word father. That's all. All these, some, not all, but some of these dots, dashes, and strokes have to do with vowel letters. Then this is an A. It could be an O also. Aleph is here in the middle, okay, right below the 2. And that's, we went through that, it's a silent letter. And what makes the sound is the vowel underneath it. In this situation, is gametz. That's an A class. So, ra'ah. The hey or the H here is silent, okay? That's like an appendix. You don't listen, you don't pay attention to it, until it hurts. Okay? That's hey, and that's just the deal. Also, the hey is silent in the tetragrammaton. Or haya, Bereshit haya hadabar, v'hadabar hayaim ha'elohim, va'elohim haya hadabar. I say va instead of wa because wa doesn't roll, and sometimes I divide it into two different things. I say wa and then va, or vice versa in the same verse. Okay, for and, that's a no-no. Ra'ah, to see, that's what it means. Okay. Anyway, it says over here, and appeared. So it will appear to be the case, no pun intended, that ra'ah is used for appear here. Okay, so that's very easy to remember. And what I want to say is that the Trinity is one being yet three persons. That's the formula initially, right? Three persons, yet one being. Or one being, yet three persons. Don't say one being and three persons. Because one Jehovah's Witness that I was speaking to was saying, well, who's the fourth one? Who is he? And it was actually in a debate. They were saying, okay, you got the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but what's the other one? Well, who is he? It was in the scene debate. No one has seen God at any time. He was all confused. He was thinking it was four. So I think the proper formula is obviously, one being yet three persons. So one Lord yet three persons. You understand? They're all called Lord. They're all called God. All of them. Toteo. The Holy Spirit is called Toteo. In the dative case. You understand? So, they're not parts of each other. They're not parts of God. They are God. It's not like a 33% plus 32% plus 32% plus person and altogether make up God. That's not true. All of them are God. One God. You understand? They're in unity. Greek word hen or ice or ace or ace, whatever we want to call it. Ace, actually, And so that's just very important to understand. That all are called Lord, all are called God. Can't bracket any of the members to be just one, just to be called one thing, to be called one, just Lord or God, because they're all called, both throughout the pages of the Bible. Anyway, but that's just the deal. Now, Yahweh is here, so let's just do a study on Yahweh while I'm here anyway. You understand? Yahweh comes from, it's a third person form of Haya. Mao says in his lexicon. And so Ehyach is the first person form, and I hope I said it correctly. Ehyach is the first person form of Haya, and Yahweh or Yahweh is the third person form of Haya. They all come from Haya, which means to be, and it could mean to become. Now, this is the thing, okay? They're not really keen on the Hebrew, but I'm going to get into it before they get into it in the future, okay? So I guess that's the dative case, but not the future tense, though. They could say, well, you know something? I mean, Angelo likes to, go into the Hebrew of John 1:1. Okay, let's get into it, says a Jehovah's Witness. Do you know, Angelo, that Haya means to become? It doesn't only mean was, it means to become. I mean, that's just the deal. Well, let me answer that for my future opponents or, people yet to be born. Okay. Just because you have a semantic range or something is in the, it has a semantic domain or a semantic pool, I like to call it, it doesn't mean you use all the possible translations for the text. Okay? It doesn't mean that at all. People that use the word copy, okay, in their translation of Hebrews chapter 1 verse 8, just because copy is in the, semantic domain, it doesn't mean that you can use it for every text, okay? As a matter of fact, okay, they had to say that that Jesus is actually the tool. Okay, the tool, not the copy, but the tool. Okay, to make the copy. Okay, but anyway, I'm just trying to say that just because it says, and I don't know of an English word, English version that says copy there in Hebrews 1:3, but if there is one, there's hundreds. But if there is one, so what? Okay, not a copy. I should say so what? It's wrong. Okay, I should say that hupadegma. It is early, guys. Hupadegma, a pure word that means copy in the Greek New Testament, which is found and recorded 6 times. Okay, the word hupadegma, which really means copy. Okay, that doesn't appear for Jesus nowhere in the Bible, and it wasn't used, okay, by the writer of Hebrews according to verse 3 of chapter 1 of Hebrews. Hupadegma appears 6 times. Okay, in the story of the washing of the feet of the disciples by our Lord, in chapter 13 of John, chapter 5 of James, 3 times maybe in Hebrews, chapter 4, 8, and 9, something like that, and then I gotta look at it again, and also 2 Peter chapter 2, like an example, those cities were made as an example, upadegma. But that purely means copy, So that's not found anywhere for Christ. Let's get back to this. Tetragrammaton. Yod, hey, wow, hey. Do you know the story of the Tetragrammaton? The story of the Tetragrammaton is, okay, hand, behold, nail, behold. This is the story of the crucifixion of Jesus in the Tetragrammaton. Now remember, this is for the future. Okay, third person. Also, Yod has a schwa underneath it, so yeah. And then you have the hey, yeah. And then the wow or the vav, wa or va. And then you have the comment underneath it, though, and then you have the final letter is a hey, but that's silent. Okay, so you have Yahweh. Yahweh. Okay? So that's just the deal. Now, it's found, like I said, at least 6,828 times. Let's just put it like that, because Mouse has it at 29. 6,829 times. That's his number count. That's just the deal. And it's from Haya. It's the third person form of Haya. Haya is just a lexical form of Haya. But it's actually, the name of God. Found and recorded in Exodus chapter, the names of God found and recorded in Exodus chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. You have the name of God, Ekyak, and a memorial name of God, Yahweh. But they're both equal to each other. Okay? Ekyak is just as equal as the Tetragrammaton. I hope you understand that. Okay? That's just the deal. It's just as equal. Jesus said that he was Ekyak. That's found and recorded in Hebrew New Testaments, like the 1817 Hebrew New Testament and the 1880 Hebrew New Testament. So that's it. Now this is Yod Hey Wow Hey. Yod means hand. The letter means hand. The first one. Remember that you read Hebrew from right to left, never from left to right, unless you're breaking out the syllables or whatever the case may be. Okay. It's very unlike Greek, English, Spanish, French, Latin, that all read from left to right. This Aramaic is like this. You read Aramaic from right to left also. And this is Babylonian script, but we call it Hebrew. You understand? And they adopted this, meaning the Jewish people, after the captivity into Babylon. So Yod means hand. The second letter, Hey, means, and I'm right under the E in Yahweh. The second letter means behold. In Paleo Hebrew, it's like a man raising up his arms and hands and saying, look at this, or whatever. Like, I don't know. Then the wow is here. This is a wow. This is a W or a V in Hebrew. And it is early in the morning, guys. And we have the comments underneath it. So, Yah. And they say Yahweh, but they don't count the A class underneath it. Nobody says Yahweh. Because they were borrowed from Adonai. But anyway, there you have a hey. And the wow is a 10th nail. Okay, so you have a hand here and a nail. First letter means hand. And then the nail, okay. This was the 10th nail of a tent. Or whatever the case may be. Yahweh. That's just it. Anyway, guys, I better go. This is going to be an interesting study to put everything together. And once I have everything put together, then I'm going to resume my study. Because we're going to look to see that Jehovah is here. If you want to say Jehovah, Yahweh, I mean, who knows who's right. We can't be talk dogmatic about pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton. I mean, the King James has it at 4 different times. I think that Jehovah appears in their translation. You understand what I'm saying? Psalm 83 is one. Incidentally, Psalm 83 has Gaza in it. Philista, I think it is. But it has Gaza. That's a big topic nowadays. The word Gaza appears 20 times in the Bible. And it appears, I think, first in Genesis chapter 10, according to Rosenberg. And that's a nice study to do. The Gaza Strip, everything like that. The enemies of Israel surrounding them. Okay. End time study, or whatever the case may be. That's a very interesting topic there. But Psalm 83, that's a very, very, very poignant psalm on the plight of Israel and the enemies that are against Israel, and not only the enemies of Israel, but the enemies of God. That's called and recorded. So that's just the deal. My son is waking up here, so I better go. This is Angelo Quinones giving glory to the God of Yisrael, and we're going to check out the count. Now, remember that the NIV, had the word Lord recorded in its pages in this chapter 18 of Genesis, 15, no less than 15 times. It's not a great help. Okay, I love the NIV. It's the greatest selling Bible of all time. It's a wonderful translation. Dynamic equivalent and translation. Mounts is in several of those committees of the NIV, right? He's a wonderful Greek scholar. NIV is a wonderful Bible. This idea that and they're kissing cousins right here. The King James and NIV and this app here. You understand? So it's amazing that Gail Replica came on the scene and ripped the NIV and NASB and all modern versions of the Bible without no scholarship. She was hanging up curtains and graduated from decorating school or whatever she did. And then when she was introduced in some of these Bible television shows, she has all these degrees, and they don't even tell you in what, But she was just a decorator. She was just a designer, So that's just it. Well, guys, I better go. I'm gonna have the count for you, and we're gonna further study because this is gonna lead up. This is the doorstep to chapter 19 and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, because we're going to see that one Lord went to heaven and the Lord stayed down and judged. It doesn't say that three people left Abraham. It says they, or whatever the case may be, they left, but the men left. But that could be one, that could be two, that could be one or two. We're going to see that two were judging in Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, so obviously one person of God, went to heaven, and that's just it. And two stayed. That's just the deal. Striking the enemies of Lot and his family and of God with blindness at the door. Okay, so that's just it. Well, anyway, guys, very interesting. Very interesting. This is the Trinity's here. This is the first chapter in the Bible that the word three, which is thrice or tres or tris in the Greek Septuagint, and shalosh or shalosha is there also in the text, but shalosh in the lexical is the lexical form. And that's the first time that God is mentioned as being three persons. Now, already there's a plurality within the Godhead, verses 1 and 26 of chapter 1, verse 22 of chapter 3. Na'aseh is there. And let us make in Hebrew, verse 26 of chapter 1 of Genesis, Bereshit. And then you have, Mim Menu. And man has become like one quote of us. It's Mim Menu. Remember, Nu means us in Hebrew, okay? It's found and recorded in Genesis chapter 3, verse 22. And then you go to Genesis 11:7. A lot of people know these verses by heart. Neredat is there, okay? And you go to Lanu, found and recorded in verse 8 of chapter 6 of Isaiah. Who will go for us? Well, the angels don't send, men. Who will go for us is God speaking, okay? Having a council, okay? And that has to do with the Trinity members. You know what I'm saying? And the pool of the deity and the Holy Family, if you will. You understand what I'm saying? Well, guys, I have to go. Parting is such sweet sorrow. This is Angelo Quinones giving glory, total glory to the God of Israel. God is not the God of the dead, Necron, with a kappa or a K, but of the living. And that means that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were very much alive at the time that Jesus said those words. Please subscribe to my channel. Please give me a thumbs up. And please leave a comment on the screen. Thank you. Bye. Bye.